Lewis Hamilton just shocked Formula One, without even using Ferrari's simulator the way the team expected. And after Canada, Ferrari may have accidentally confirmed why. Because while Charles Leclerc was suffering through what he later called one of the worst weekends of his entire career, Hamilton delivered his best result in red by trusting instinct over simulation. Same Ferrari, same data, completely opposite reality. But here is where the story becomes explosive. Ferrari already admitted the SF26 still suffers from major correlation problems between the simulator and the real car on track. That means the setup information drivers trust before the race may not actually match what happens once the lights go out. And Canada may have exposed the consequences brutally. Because while Leclerc kept chasing the balance Ferrari expected from simulation, Hamilton slowly abandoned the perfect setup philosophy completely. He adapted naturally, lap by lap, corner by corner. The result changed everything inside Maranello. Hamilton looked calm, aggressive, completely synchronized with the SF26 for the first time all season. He fought Max Verstappen directly for the podium and delivered Ferrari's strongest race of the year. And now the tension inside Ferrari is exploding for one terrifying reason. What if Lewis Hamilton's instincts are currently more reliable than Ferrari's own simulator system? Because if that is true, Canada may not just be Hamilton's breakthrough race with Ferrari. It may be the moment he exposed one of the team's biggest hidden weaknesses. Subscribe if you love Formula One stories that reveal what teams desperately try to hide. At first, nobody inside Ferrari thought Canada would become a turning point for Lewis Hamilton. The expectation was simple: survive the weekend, limit the damage, try to stay close to Mercedes and Red Bull on a circuit that exposed Ferrari's weaknesses brutally. But something strange started happening almost immediately. Hamilton stopped driving like a driver trying to follow Ferrari's simulator, and started driving like Lewis Hamilton again. That difference changed everything. Now, to understand why this became such massive news inside Maranello, you need to understand how modern Formula One teams operate. Simulators are not just tools anymore. They are basically digital versions of the race weekend. Drivers use them to predict braking behavior, tire temperatures, energy deployment, corner balance. The entire setup philosophy is built around what the simulator says the car should feel like before the team even arrives at the circuit. But Ferrari already admitted something deeply uncomfortable after Canada. The SF26 still suffers from unresolved correlation problems between the simulator and the real car on track. That is terrifying for a top Formula One team. Because if the simulator predicts the wrong balance, drivers spend the entire weekend chasing a car that does not actually exist. And Canada may have exposed that problem brutally. Charles Leclerc later admitted the SF26 never felt right from the very first practice session onward. Not qualifying, not the race, Friday morning. That matters enormously. Because when elite drivers instantly lose confidence and never recover it, engineers usually know the issue is structural. Not just setup, not just tires, something deeper. Think about training for weeks on a virtual reality flight simulator, then entering the real aircraft and discovering the controls react differently in the air. Eventually, instinct stops trusting the system. That was Leclerc's reality in Canada. Every setup adjustment seemed to create another problem. More instability, worse tire behavior, less braking confidence. And eventually, Charles openly admitted he felt disconnected from the car almost the entire weekend. Meanwhile, Hamilton slowly moved in the opposite direction. At first, Lewis struggled too. That part is important. He was not magically fast immediately. But instead of forcing the SF26 toward the simulator's ideal behavior, Hamilton started adapting himself toward what the real car actually wanted on track. Earlier braking, smoother steering inputs, more patience on corner entry, tiny instinctive changes that looked almost invisible from the outside, but completely transformed the balance underneath him. And this is where Ferrari engineers started noticing something fascinating. The less Hamilton tried to force the perfect setup window predicted by simulation, the more competitive he became. That should seriously concern Ferrari internally, because Formula One teams depend on simulator trust. Without it, development becomes chaotic. Drivers stop believing the data. Engineers stop understanding which direction is actually correct. Everything becomes reactive instead of controlled. And Canada may have been the first weekend where Hamilton's experience became more reliable than Ferrari's own predictive systems. That is a huge statement, especially when you compare what happened emotionally on both sides of the garage. While Hamilton slowly built confidence lap after lap, Leclerc completely lost it. One driver adapting around the car's unpredictability, the other drowning inside it. And Ferrari engineers were watching two completely opposite realities unfold in the exact same SF26. That terrified the team more than the final result itself, because elite Formula One teams survive on consistency, shared understanding, predictable behavior. Canada exposed the opposite, and now Ferrari faces a terrifying question moving forward. If Lewis Hamilton succeeds by trusting instinct more than simulation, what does that say about Ferrari's entire development system? Then the race itself exposed the simulator problem in the most brutal way possible. Because once the lights went out in Montreal, Hamilton and Leclerc immediately started driving the SF26 like two completely different cars. And the contrast became impossible to ignore. Leclerc kept searching for the balance Ferrari expected from simulation. Hamilton stopped searching entirely. That sounds small, but it changes everything in modern Formula One. Because today's drivers are trained to trust data almost blindly. Every braking point, every energy deployment phase, every setup adjustment, everything is built around simulator preparation before the race even begins. But Canada slowly pushed Hamilton into a completely different mindset. Forget the prediction. Drive the reality. And lap after lap, that decision transformed his race. At first, Lewis looked cautious, measured. He was not attacking aggressively in the opening phase. But Ferrari engineers immediately noticed something important. Hamilton's tire temperatures looked more stable. His braking inputs became smoother. The SF26 stopped fighting him under corner entry. Meanwhile, Leclerc kept struggling with instability that never truly disappeared. And this is where Ferrari's correlation problem becomes terrifying. Because if the simulator predicts one type of balance, but the real car reacts differently on track, drivers naturally start forcing incorrect solutions. Think about following a GPS that says the road turns left, while the real road suddenly curves right. Eventually, every correction becomes wrong too. That was Leclerc's weekend. Every adjustment Ferrari made seemed to create another issue. More front instability, poor tire temperature control, less confidence under braking. And once confidence disappears in Formula One, the entire lap collapses very quickly. Hamilton escaped that spiral by doing something almost old school. He trusted feel over prediction, instinct over simulation, experience over perfect data. And honestly, that may explain why his performance became stronger the longer the race continued. Because once Hamilton stopped expecting the SF26 to behave perfectly, he started adapting naturally around its weaknesses. That is elite experience. And Ferrari engineers could literally see it happening in real time. The steering corrections disappeared. The braking confidence increased. The tire management improved lap after lap. Then came the safety car after George Russell's retirement. Everything compressed together instantly. Fresh tires, cleaner air, aggressive strategy opportunity. And suddenly Hamilton looked transformed. Not just comfortable, dangerous. For the first time all season, he attacked the SF26 instinctively instead of cautiously. The battle with Verstappen looked natural. The Racecraft looked sharp. Even the radio communication sounded calmer and more controlled. That usually means one thing in Formula One. The driver has finally connected emotionally with the car underneath him. Meanwhile, Leclerc's confidence kept collapsing in the opposite direction. Charles later admitted he never truly found a single lap where the Ferrari felt natural all weekend. That statement matters enormously, because elite drivers rarely lose trust completely unless the car behaves unpredictably beneath them. And now Ferrari faces an uncomfortable possibility internally. What if the simulator is not simply inaccurate? What if it is actively sending the drivers toward the wrong setup direction? That question is terrifying for a top Formula One team, because simulators are supposed to reduce uncertainty, not create it. And if Hamilton's instinctive adaptation is outperforming Ferrari's predictive systems, then Maranello may have a much deeper development problem than just setup balance. Especially because Canada exposed another dangerous layer underneath everything: the engine deficit. According to the concerns emerging after the race, Ferrari may still be more than 20 horsepower behind Mercedes. That means the drivers are already being forced to overcompensate everywhere else. Later braking, more aggressive corner exits, harder tire management. And if the simulator is also misguiding setup direction at the same time, the SF26 becomes psychologically exhausting to drive. Hamilton somehow adapted around that chaos. Leclerc could not. That difference may end up changing the entire internal balance of Ferrari moving forward. Because Canada revealed something extremely important beneath all the tension and confusion. Lewis Hamilton no longer looks like a driver trying to understand Ferrari. He looks like a driver starting to understand how to beat Ferrari's own weaknesses. But Ferrari's biggest problem after Canada may not actually be the simulator itself. It may be what Hamilton's success suddenly means for the entire structure of the team. Because once one driver starts outperforming the system instead of following it, tension spreads everywhere inside a Formula One garage. And Canada may have been the first race where Ferrari quietly realized something deeply uncomfortable. Lewis Hamilton's instincts may currently be more reliable than Ferrari's own predictive tools. That is an enormous statement in modern Formula One. Because today, Formula One teams are built around simulation. Everything is calculated, modeled, predicted. Drivers are expected to operate almost like extensions of the engineering software. But Hamilton's Canada performance looked completely different. It looked human, reactive, old school. And the terrifying thing for Ferrari is that it worked. While Leclerc kept chasing the balance Ferrari expected from simulation, Hamilton stopped trying to force the SF26 into perfection and simply drove what the real car gave him. That mentality changed everything. Think about surfing during a storm. One person keeps trying to predict every wave perfectly. The other simply reacts naturally to the water underneath them. Eventually, the second person survives longer. That was Hamilton in Canada. And Ferrari engineers could literally watch the difference unfolding lap after lap. Hamilton became calmer. Leclerc became more frustrated. The exact same SF26 was creating completely opposite emotional reactions. And that is where Ferrari's real danger begins. Because once drivers stop trusting the simulator equally, development direction becomes incredibly complicated. Which feedback matters more? The driver adapting naturally on track? Or the driver still searching for the correct setup predicted by simulation? Canada may have forced Ferrari into that exact dilemma. And honestly, the timing could not be worse. Because while Hamilton is finally building confidence with the SF26, Ferrari is simultaneously fighting two other major crises: the unresolved simulator correlation problem, and the massive engine deficit compared to Mercedes. That combination is terrifying for engineers, because now every setup decision becomes emotionally loaded. If the simulator says one thing but Hamilton's instincts say another, who does Ferrari follow? Especially after Canada proved Hamilton's approach delivered results. Second place, a direct fight with Verstappen, his best Ferrari performance yet. Meanwhile, Leclerc openly described the same weekend as one of the worst experiences of his entire career.